myself, like I don't sit down and go, okay, I'm going to do some hypnosis. I think I just do it.
It's just automatic.
In my
So
process.
anytime you notice any kind of process within yourself that's not working, you go in there and sort of start reframing how your process is. So, which is a great tool. Anytime you can look at any kind of behavior that you're having and you're not happy with. This morning when I was driving in, my guides always give me these little metaphors. And they said, when dealing with your subconscious, think of it as if you're driving in a car and you make a wrong turn. You go left instead of right. Would you pull your car over and stop, turn off the ignition, get out of the car, and look back at where you made that wrong turn and keep looking at it and saying, I made that wrong turn, I made that wrong turn? And would you sit there in your car no longer going in your direction? Because that's what happens when we decide we've made a mistake in our lives and we lament over it and we keep emotionally associating that, and we stop ourselves from moving forward and from course correcting. Or more appropriately, of course, you make a wrong turn in your car, you find yourself going in the wrong direction. What do? You course correct. And you figure out what turns to make to get back on track in your original direction, and you simply make a series of decisions that correct the initial one that you were no longer happy with. And if you come across that fork in the road again, you've now learned from the experience, and you likely wouldn't make the same turn again wrong, but you might. But even if you did make the same turn that was incorrect again, your course correction would be much faster. But there's a strong likelihood you wouldn't make the same one. So that's when you start doing work with self-hypnosis or any kind of neurolinguistic programming. The idea is to keep on moving forward and to just look at where the turn in the road wrong was and continue to do a series of course corrections and not get caught up in the idea that you're stuck in that left turn that you made instead of right turn. And that's all the work that we do with healers, is we get people to realize they have the ability to course correct and to not get stuck in the idea of mistakes. And I've decided to take the word mistake out of my vocabulary. They are simply decisions that you made with all the information you had at the time, that if you could go back and look at it again with all the information you have now, you might make the same decision, but you might make a different one. And so I'm taking mistake out of my vocabulary because I believe there is no such thing. It's just everything that we learn from. And these are all the tools that we have available to us. So do you teach courses with Ericksonian hypnosis? Do you facilitate it?
I do. I should say I use Ericksonian hypnosis in a real spiritual way and healing way. And a couple things that maybe you might find interesting is that this style of hypnosis uses a lot of paradox and metaphor. And I'm sure you can relate to when you were a child and somebody read you a story, maybe even an Aesop fable that had a moral to it. And so that's a big, big part of Ericksonian hypnosis. For example, a paradox might be, you will forget to remember, and you will remember to forget. And so if you can observe how your mind, it kind of opens the door with that kind of thing. But what's unique to what I do, and I provide a really healing and nurturing and actually transformative process, is that all the information that I work with when you come in, and I don't know before you get there what's going to happen, is all that I hear, see, feel, and it's all directed by spirit. We sit in a circle of light, and I call in healers and guides that are with you, and then I start. And I do use my voice and patterns, and most of the time when I work with hypnosis with someone, they do go into an altered state. And I just allow that process to take place. And sometimes even when someone comes to see me, I begin to change states. And sometimes even before they come in the door. And then what often comes during the process is what I call these channeled metaphorical healing stories. And they often direct the spoken or the request or the intention, but even more so, they work with really what is the important issue, whether it's stated or unstated. And it's always very interesting to me how these stories start and where they go and how they end. And I've learned to absolutely trust them. And I can remember one woman, I started a story, and I've been doing this about 30 years, about a king and queen, and they had a middle daughter, and it traced the patterns with that young woman. And I always remember this because it was when I started early on, and when she came back to her regular waking consciousness, she said to me, "How did you know I was the middle daughter of 3 girls?" But it was great confirmation to me, you know, to have that validation in terms of the symbols and the stories that are given to me. And there's just been such a variety over the years, and sometimes the information that comes through me so moves me because there's such love attached to it that it's like I want to cry. And so I've learned to recognize that as the truth. And so anyway, they're very healing, but I want to stress the point, they're also very nurturing. It's a very nurturing process. And I've seen when I'm sitting with someone, healers that are in the room that are working with the person that's sitting there as well. And for me, it's a very creative process to be a witness to what happens. And I've seen people make remarkable, what I want to say, transformative changes when they go through this process. I've worked at a couple clients I've worked with for 2 and 3 years. Just amazing, amazing changes in their lives. Now, if I'm guided to do so, I will say something to you directly. But oftentimes, the words that I use are directed, so they're directed towards your other ears and your other side.
It's going in the back door. It's a confrontational healer. Isn't usually something that has a great deal of success. And we were just talking last night. Jessie was asking me the difference between a psychic and a healer. And we were talking this morning about some attendees that were here at our last fair, and there's definitely what they call just the psychic energy, where they're simply reading something that's going on and giving you feedback as to what they see, which is entirely different than simply using psychic abilities to facilitate an improvement in their emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being. And that's the difference between a psychic and a healer, is psychics really are just interested in giving you information in exchange for payment, where I think that's why so many healers we have financial issues, because it's really not about the money. We just want to help. But there is nothing, and I cry all the time in healing sessions. It's just, I start, and sometimes I alarm people. They say, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, because the emotions are just coming through. And I've never had any shamanic training, but I do a lot of shamanic work in the healing sessions. Whatever they're releasing is getting pulled through me, and I'm feeling their emotions, and I'll cry, and I'll get a little windy, and I'll yawn, and it's just all process of their stuff coming through me, but it's my confirmation that they're releasing it. So I mean, I must have been a shaman in some other life. Because it comes very naturally to me. But I mean, this is really beautiful work, and Carol and I, and there are 16 million light workers present on the earth, from what I've been told. About 6 million have woken up, and about 2 or 3 million are actually doing healing work. That doesn't sound like very much, but when you apply the ripple effect that even